Welcome to the Actuate Health Access Faucet, a transformative initiative dedicated to empowering individuals through the principles of sustainable One Health. This program recognizes the deep interconnectedness of animal, environmental, and human health, affirming that a holistic approach is key to well-being. Our program is designed to equip individuals with essential health knowledge, enabling them to become custodians of their own well-being. Through our hybrid Learn to Earn sessions, conducted both virtually via Google Meet and at physical locations, we engage participants from diverse backgrounds. These weekly sessions serve as dynamic platforms for learning, discussion, and collaboration. We focus on the co-creation of knowledge through the Learn One, Do One, Teach One approach. This method ensures that each participant not only learns valuable health information, but also applies it and teaches it to others, fostering a ripple effect of empowerment and education. By participating in the Actuate Health Access Program, individuals gain the tools and knowledge needed to improve their health and the health of their communities. Our goal is to create a network of informed and proactive health custodians who can address health challenges in a sustainable and impactful way. Join us in this journey towards better health for all. Together, we can make a difference. Welcome to the Actuate Health Access Faucet, a transformative initiative dedicated to empowering individuals through the principles of sustainable One Health. This program recognizes the deep interconnectedness of animal, environmental, and human health, affirming that a holistic approach is key to well-being. Our program is designed to equip individuals with essential health knowledge, enabling them to become custodians of their own well-being. Through our hybrid Learn to Earn sessions, conducted both virtually via Google Meet and at physical locations, we engage participants from diverse backgrounds. These weekly sessions serve as dynamic platforms for learning, discussion, and collaboration. We focus on the co-creation of knowledge through the Learn One, Do One, Teach One approach. This method ensures that each participant not only learns valuable health information, but also applies it and teaches it to others, fostering a ripple effect of empowerment and education. By participating in the Actuate Health Access Program, individuals gain the tools and knowledge needed to improve their health and the health of their communities. Our goal is to create a network of informed and proactive health custodians who can address health challenges in a sustainable and impactful way. Join us in this journey towards better health for all. Together, we can make a difference. Welcome to the Actuate Health Access Faucet, a transformative initiative dedicated to empowering individuals through the principles of sustainable One Health. This program recognizes the deep interconnectedness of animal, environmental, and human health, affirming that a holistic approach is key to well-being. Our program is designed to equip individuals with essential health knowledge, enabling them to become custodians of their own well-being. Through our hybrid Learn to Earn sessions, conducted both virtually via Google Meet and at physical locations, we engage participants from diverse backgrounds. These weekly sessions serve as dynamic platforms for learning, discussion, and collaboration. We focus on the co-creation of knowledge through the Learn One, Do One, Teach One approach.
Good evening. I hope it's a good evening for everyone. Welcome to yet another health access session, learn to earn session. As we have heard in the recent video that has played, that in this program, we empower learners to be custodians of their own health and well-being, because the well-being of a community, society, nation, world start from oneself. So welcome. And today's topic is the importance of Actuate token in global health. In our previous classes, we have discussed the importance of Actuate token in healthcare access at various levels, at individual level, family level, community level, national level, and now we are at global level, the health of the whole world. So before we start this discussion, we'll take you through the agenda. So we will start by topic presentation by our topic master, who is Daudi Maingi. After that, we will have privilege to get additional remarks from our CEO, Dr. Macharia Waruingi, and then we will have an interactive session. I encourage you to ask questions, raise concern. Let it be interactive. After that, we will get to hear the pre-Boston Nairobi Summit announcement from Augustine Narokwe. Then we will conclude the meeting. So please, as we listen from our topic master, let's prepare questions for him and let's prepare for the discussion. So allow me to welcome our topic master. Daudi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, welcome, and go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you, Glory. I'm David Maingi. Today's topic is the role of the Actuate token in global health. The Actuate token holds a significant potential for revolutionizing global health by introducing a decentralized approach to funding and resource allocation. One of its primary advantages is its ability to facilitate secure, transparent, and efficient financial support for health projects worldwide. Unlike traditional systems that may be hindered by bureaucratic inefficiencies or corruption, blockchain technology ensures that funds reach their intended recipients without delay or mismanagement. Additionally, the Actuate token can help improve access to healthcare in underserved regions by incentivizing participation in health programs, by rewarding individuals for engaging in preventive care, vaccinations, or regular health checkups. The token encourages proactive health management, which ultimately reduces the burden of disease and improves overall health outcomes in communities that might otherwise lack adequate medical services. Another critical benefit of the Actuate token is its role in facilitating the secure exchange of health data. By leveraging blockchain, patients, healthcare providers, and researchers can share crucial medical information while maintaining privacy and data integrity. This enhanced data sharing capability leads to better clinical decisions, more accurate research, and the development of personalized treatments. Moreover, the token can be used to support public health initiatives on a large scale, whether it's funding vaccination drives, raising awareness of disease prevention, or backing global health campaigns. The Actuate token provides a decentralized, community-driven approach to public health funding. Token holders may also participate in governance, ensuring that resources are directed toward the most impactful initiatives. In terms of innovation, the Actuate token offers a new venue for supporting health tech startups and medical innovations. By enabling token-based crowdfunding, it encourages the development of cutting-edge treatments, digital health solutions, and medical technologies that address pressing global health challenges. Transparency is another key feature of the Actuate token. Since every transaction is recorded on the blockchain, donors, stakeholders, and communities can track how funds are spent, fostering greater accountability and trust in global health funding. Lastly, the token promotes equitable distribution of health resources. It can ensure that even the most vulnerable populations, particularly in low-income areas, have access to essential healthcare services. This helps bridge the gap between affluent and underprivileged regions, contributing to health equity. By tying health behaviors to token rewards, the Actuate token also supports sustainability, encouraging individuals to maintain healthier lifestyles and reducing the long-term pressure on global health systems. The Actuate token is poised to transform global health by enabling a more equitable, transparent, and innovative approach to healthcare funding, data management, and resource distribution. Thank you. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, David, for that powerful presentation. We are glad to have you. So yes, it is always pleasure to have this conversation of how our token, the Actuate token, the potential it has to transform healthcare, not just locally, but globally, especially due to the transparency, inclusivity aspect, the fact that it will ensure equitable healthcare access despite the social, the economic factors of the patients, and becoming now the beacon of hope to the vulnerable population. So I will welcome our CEO, Dr. Masharia, to give us additional remarks about the topic. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Glory. Wow, very powerful topic. Glory, please confirm you can hear me. Hi, Glory.
Yes, Doctor, you can hear you.
All right, thank you, because I could end up talking to myself all day long. Okay, wow, Dowdy. Now, Dowdy, some people remove the V and call you Dowdy. Other people add the V and call you David. Well, I know King David, of course, very inspirational guy. He knocked out Goliath with a single stone. Yeah, Goliath is what you call global health. I think the G in Goliath has been replaced by global health. That's what it means. Because global health is one giant Goliath, which is trying to kill all the people in developing countries. It's a Philistine here, global health. And this Goliath is actually manufactured, just like the Goliath of old days was manufactured. So we need David and his prowess with his catapult. Just one stone, but you have to aim well. We have to aim well where it matters so we can knock down this Goliath. And I will tell you why global health is a Goliath. Global health is a Goliath because it is an idea or a narrative that is manufactured by who, people in power, people. This is the Western community. So what they call global health, I want you to listen carefully to this, is that after they have manufactured their medicines in Europe, or they have manufactured their medicine in the United States, and they have used them for their people, then they can give the medicines they don't want to the people in third world. Rather, instead of throwing them into the waste basket, they throw them into Africa. So Africa becomes the waste basket for people in Europe and people in the United States, these manufacturers. So they're not doing anything genuine. It's totally disingenuous. They're not doing that to produce global health. And while they are doing that, which they call donations, which they say, we are going to donate all the stuff to the poor in Africa. They call the poor the marginalized. Who made the poor in the first place? It's all this colonialism. Before that, there was slavery. And then after that, there's neo-colonialism. So that's why these people look so disenfranchised that they cannot help themselves. We have to give them gifts so they can improve their lives. And that's what they call global health. So for example, here in Boston, I work amidst lots of companies, biomedical manufacturing companies. They have global health meetings all the time. They're not thinking about how they are going to improve health of anyone. They're wondering all these medications which we manufactured and they have nowhere to go. Where do you take them? So they take them to Africa. Yeah. So it's like it's a place for disposing what they don't want, their waste materials, which is sad, but they don't want to hear that. They don't genuinely really want people to know how to create their own medicines or how to create solutions for themselves. And then while they are doing at it, they also do that to reduce their tax burden, because they say we are doing this humanitarian project. So they convince the government, the federal government, to reduce their taxation because they are donating their all the products, the produce of their labor to the third world countries. So they get a lot of tax benefits. So there's a lot of tax benefits in this phenomenon called global health. And of course, other people jump in to support that narrative, including people like the World Bank, the United Nations, the World Health Organization. So it looks like a very beautiful thing happening. But that is a disaster because, when they are doing that, is the actual cause of health problems in the world. That includes the pathogens that cause diseases and other things that happen, like chronic illnesses, like from high blood sugar, from hypertension. It does not, that one does not wait for you or for them to come and donate the things they don't want to people out there in Africa. So because it's not organized, those diseases are very, very, very organized for themselves, because diseases know how to cause diseases. I'll give you an example. Malaria parasite would give you malaria whether or not somebody in Boston says what this or the other. It doesn't matter what you say. If you get malaria parasite in your bloodstream, you are sure going to get malaria. And so it's tuberculosis. If you breathe those bacteria, they settle in your lung, you're going to develop tuberculosis, regardless of what somebody is saying in Europe. And if you get HIV, if you get any disease, think of any disease, this polio, it's going to affect you. It has nothing to do with what someone sitting in Europe or maybe sitting in New York City is going to be saying or doing. And now let's come to even bigger diseases. I say bigger because they spread throughout the world, like coronavirus disease. And you call those diseases of global health concern. See, that's another term you want to understand. Global health concern. What is a disease of global health concern? So you want to think about that twice. A disease of global health concern, a disease becomes a disease of global health concern when it has killed many, many people. It's only after, say, a virus like coronavirus disease, the COVID virus, has spread out to the place and causing, first of all, epidemics. So it causes an epidemic, kills a lot of people where it is in its own nation, and then has traveled to other nations to kill even more people. Then they say, oh, this is a disease of global health concern. So it is at that point that these masters of global health are going to start saying, okay, let us do something. So they run after the virus, which has already broken through the fence and gone out to kill the other people in the world. The virus itself, coronavirus. So you wonder, where does the virus get permission from to break through the gates of its own confines to spread to the rest of the world so it can become a global health concern or disease of global health concern? Where was all these masters of global health? Where were they sitting when that thing was happening? Yeah. Yes. And then they are very vocal, telling you that, okay, we are working on this. So where did that happen? That in healthcare, we are outthought by the most tiny things like bacteria and viruses. Malaria parasite is going to kill people, whether the guys, the most educated, high professionals working on global health, they are working on talking. The malaria will not stop killing the people, as you have seen, evidence. Yes, even things like cholera, dysentery, whatever you say, they are not stopped by the present day narrative of global health. Then you can say all this stuff talk about global health is a complete adventure in missing the point. It is neither here nor there. It has absolutely no effect, zero effect. In fact, it causes more problems than it solves. It's like when the cure is worse than the disease. Why does that happen? That's why we want to understand. Really, why does it happen that when people are creating solutions from outside to go and throw those solutions to a local place, the solutions do not work. They miss everything. And as they are doing it, they destroy the local place they're throwing that solution at, which is what you would call the paradox of the paradox. Yeah, this kind of paradox that emerges in global health interventions. They produce something called relevance paradox. Because the solutions for global health that are going to emerge from Boston, or say, or they're going to emerge from, say, London School of Public Health, or indeed from Geneva, and they are thrown into African continent to solve what they call global health problem or to attack diseases of global health concern, they end up producing more disease. This is true. They end up creating more disease than the one they found. For example, when they started what's called rollback malaria program, so they started talking about reducing the incidence. The idea was to reduce the incidence of malaria by cut down the incidence by 50% every 5 years for over, that was way back in 1999. You guys were not born. So we said, let's do rollback malaria. And they put in a lot of money to roll back malaria. Yeah, like as if the parasite is going to sit there and wait to be rolled back. Rollback malaria, that was 1999. And they said, we are going to do what? To reduce the incidence of malaria every 5 years, but by the year 2015, we shall have eradicated malaria. Now, for all of you guys who are in the ground, could you say that malaria has been eradicated? At that time, when we were introducing rollback malaria, you only needed one kind of tablet to treat malaria infection or infestation. So the malaria parasite was responsive to chloroquine itself. So by the time they rolled back malaria for 2 years only, that's what it took, we got emergence of even much more powerful, stronger parasites, malaria parasite, which they called the first resistant malaria parasite. And so because that parasite is so clever, it reproduced itself. It actually created, and it went on getting all the other malaria bugs pregnant. So they produced a lot of new parasites, which are resistant to the first drug. It's called the first line therapy or resistance. So that resistance multiplied, and now those things were much more lethal. They were killing more people. So they said, okay, now we've discovered a new resistance to malaria. And they say, okay, let us put the second level therapy, which now they introduced these sulfonamides treatments. And when that happened, even that malaria, the malaria parasite discovered what they have done. And what the malaria did was to create a new resistance even to the second level treatment. And even as they do that, the malaria parasites also, they introduced a third level treatment, which became the triple therapy for malaria. And I think, right, maybe that's where we are right now, using four therapies. Because as you're doing stuff like that from outside, the malaria, which is internal, is learning and is going to create its own new parasitic breed, which is resistant to all those therapies you're trying to throw from outside. And in fact, by 2010, malaria was killing, remember, in the beginning, when we were counting that, there were about maybe 800,000 people dying from malaria every year. in African continent. By the time they are doing that, by 2010, there were millions upon millions of people in malaria death. And these people, and they were being, the parasite become highly resistant, become multi-drug resistant malaria. Okay. And see, malaria, you would think that they learned something from malaria parasite itself. But malaria is only one of those things. There are so many others, so many more. That eventually we got something COVID coming in 2019, 2020. So these things happen because of what? Because of the way we have misconstrued what global health to be. That it is a top-down type of administration, financial administration, where we have people at the top of the world. That means Europeans and Americans. They write the solutions and then they give those solutions, they prescribe them as prescriptions. The way you go to a doctor, he writes for your prescription. Then they write a prescription for you how to implement the solution to this global health problem, say malaria, tuberculosis, HIV. And those solutions usually are vertical. They are one disease centric. It's like you have a solution about global health, which is on malaria itself, because malaria has become a disease of global health concern. And then we have a prescription for HIV, because HIV is a disease of global health concern. And then you have a prescription for tuberculosis. And then that becomes all the diseases. Those are the three diseases, we call the three big diseases we are dealing with. And then when you are doing that, then you see we are going to raise a lot of money to fight those diseases. It's when the key word is fight, the fight against malaria, fight against TB, fight against HIV, the fight against COVID. One thing I want to tell you, you cannot fight. Fight is, it's a misguided idea. You cannot come there because the disease itself is not an army. This whole thing, and I want to explain to you why this happens. So you cannot fight it. So fighting it, already you have lost the battle, because thinking that you're going to fight the disease, what they have done with malaria, and they increase the malaria that they are trying to fight. Because the idea of fighting only produces more of the disease that you're trying to produce. That problem has been studied very deeply by myself and other people. And it is known as fixes that fail, in the systems thinking. So now if you want to learn what fixes that fail, read Peter Senge, The Fifth Discipline, the art and practice of the learning organization. So when you see WHO continuing to fight with malaria and malaria is increasing, it is experiencing what's called fixes that fail. Fixes that fail. It's a system archetype. So that's the first thing that there's a system, there's an archetype. An archetype is a structure of a system that tends to repeat itself. It's actually there. It is a system. It's in the system. So if you to implement intervention without relevant knowledge, that intervention is going to fail. Not only is it going to fail, it is going to multiply the incidence of the problem you are trying to solve. So we get a lot of side effects. These are known as unintended consequences. The unintended consequences that come from fixes that fail are what manifest out as what's called relevance paradox. So relevance paradox occurs when you try to solve a problem with knowledge from outside, rather than from solving the problems with local knowledge. Now, the reason we don't have local knowledge to solve the problem comes from the source of money, the funding itself. Who is funding all this? So the person who is funding the knowledge is going to the person who is funding the intervention is going to dictate what knowledge to apply. And so if the knowledge is, if they want to say, oh, the guys in Boston, because that's Harvard Medical School, they're the most highly educated, so they're the most knowledgeable people. So you say you're going to take the knowledge from Harvard and then implement it in Kapenguria. Maybe people in a Kapeguria might not know Harvard. Some of them might know Harvard. But the virus or bacteria in Kapeguria does not care. Doesn't care whether you're from Harvard or you're from what? From the London School of Economics, or whether you're from London School of Tropical Medicine. Okay? That bacteria is a local. So that knowledge that's coming out of Boston, or say London, or Geneva, or New York City is not relevant on the ground. So when you try to apply to the ground, it doesn't fit. It has no working capacity. It doesn't work. The bacteria just looks at it and says, what kind of nonsense? And it says, okay. And then the bacteria multiplies twice and multiplies its intensity. Now, if you look at malaria literature, you're going to see the phenomenon of multi-drug resistance parasite. Even if you look at tuberculosis, the same thing. Why is it that those things happen? Because the knowledge that we use is dictated by the source of funding. And that's why centralized finance is terrible, because you cannot have that equitable distribution of the source of funding. So point number one, that if you want to overcome relevance paradox, you have to get equitable distribution of sources of funding. And that's why the blockchain becomes very, very important, or decentralized finance. Decentralized finance is the only way that you can raise money from so many different people distributed all over the world, rather than money coming from 2 points, either the European Union or the Americans. Okay. So if the money is coming from European Union or it's coming from the United States, it cannot have any effect on global health. In fact, the effect on global health is going to have it's disastrous, it's destructive, because it's going to produce fixes that fail. And then another thing that happened, another system architect that jumps in, and I want you guys to read Peter Senge's work on this system archetypes. System archetypes. Archetypes come from the word architecture. It's the architecture of the system. So they are explained in the fifth discipline. Discipline number 5, fifth discipline, the art and practice of the learning organization, first published in 1990. Peter Senge said that after you do fixes that fail, and you're failing so much, which is what has happened, as you have seen, you're failing after failure after failure after failure. Because the problem is worse, the solution is worse than the problem itself. Yeah, the solution is even worse than the disease. Is that it's like when a doctor tries to treat a disease and then kills a patient. So the solution is worse than the disease. And each time, every intervention escalates the problem to the next level. So when that happens so many times, now those foreign interveners, what they try to do is take over the system. Like you have seen, like now when they want to say they let us control HIV, tuberculosis, whatever, they will come to Kenya and they will take control of all those diseases. That everything they are doing is coming from, say, either Seattle, Washington, where Bill Gates is going to pump in a lot of money to make sure that there's enough money for what they are doing, for bringing these foreign interventions on the ground. And then as they're doing that, those foreign interventions on the ground, people on the ground get distracted at 3 levels. Number one is that people in the community stop doing what they were doing to prevent themselves from getting malaria. Because some time ago, malaria was always there. It didn't show up because these guys have just showed up. It didn't become a global health concern just because the World Health has said so. If there was malaria, malaria is not new. When it becomes this narrative called emerging infectious diseases. And I'll tell you what that means. Emerging, there's nothing emerging about it. Is that people in Europe and the United States have seen it for the first time. But then the people in the local community have seen it forever. They live there forever. So they always live there, that parasite. But it wasn't killing them. So for the last these thousands of years, you have people living in those places. If that virus was so bad, or that bacteria was so bad, it would have destroyed all of them. But they are still there. So this idea of emerging diseases is another fictional idea. The disease is always there. And local people knew how to deal with that disease themselves. So that means they have local knowledge of how to create their own interventions to prevent themselves from getting sick from that disease, which we are told now it is emerging. So when that happens, what was happening before they came along, before these interventions came from, say, European Union, or say from the United States? What were people doing there? They were doing just the local things that people do every day. People use plants, called herbal medicines, to keep away those parasites from the compound. For example, still in East Africa, people grow pyrethrum, and a lot of people know. I think people who grow, they know that pyrethrum chases insects. So what people are doing is to create these bonfires to chase mosquitoes or other parasites. Other parasites, insects that carry parasites. They use bonfires to chase those things away from the homestead. So, but then when the international intervention comes in, people don't do those bonfires anymore because they are told that all you need to do is take these 3 tablets and the disease will go away. The tablets are given for free. So what I was talking about bonfires, and of course, some of the people used to feed those insecticide plants like pyrethrum. Pyrethrum has got the most potent insecticide known to man. Yeah, pyrethrum, which is known as pyrethrin. So they used to feed them to their livestock to kill intestinal worms, it's because you could deworm your goats and sheep by giving them pyrethrum leaves just to eat. That's it. And then you deworm your own animals. People in the community know that, but they didn't write textbooks about it saying that, oh, you have to give a whole bunch of pyrethrum leaves to deworm your animals to remove those intestinal worms, Ascaris, lubricoides. Yes, because that pyrethrin is also going to immobilize the Ascaris in the gut or in the intestines, and then those Ascaris will die. I'm talking about Ascaris lubricoides, the intestinal worms. So on so many things like that, local people know that. That knowledge is known by people in local situations, and there's so many other instances of local knowledge like that are known. That knowledge is called tacit knowledge. People know it in the community, but it's not published. But somebody sitting in Boston cannot know that. You cannot know that local people in the village are feeding leaves of a certain plant to the animals to prevent them from getting intestinal infections with worms. Because those leaves are not growing where? In Boston. They're not even growing in Geneva or New York. And if you look at all the literature in the world, in the literature, the published literature, you are not going to find such a story. Because nobody actually ever asked those people. Nobody was decent enough to go to local people asking, and you guys, you've been here for the longest time, and this parasite has been around here. But how did you survive it? Nobody ever asked that question there. Because to them, that parasite is new. And they call it emerging infectious disease. Because they think the parasite is new, they are going to disregard all knowledge that has been present in the community. That knowledge is knowledge in the tacit dimension that nobody talks about, but they just do it every day without explaining why. Why are we giving some, why are you throwing some bushes into the fire? Why are you going, why you throw some branches in a fire? Why are you making these bonfires? Why were people doing that? Nobody asked that question. Okay? And that is the arrogance. That's the arrogance of the centralized system. It is too arrogant. And then they have another thing called infantilization. Infantilization is where people treat other people like children. They cannot think enough. They cannot think for themselves. They're like babies. So even if you told them, my friend, we have been throwing this leaves in the fire, they think that, oh, you're saying that because you have no clue what you're talking about. Like the way you'll be talking to a 5-year-old child. See, they have that attitude of infantilizing the African mindset. Okay, and that's why we call the third world. So because of that infantilization, they cannot gain access to the knowledge in the tacit dimension. And the tacit dimension is the one that's got what? The relevant knowledge. The relevant knowledge. Now you see, when they don't gain access to that tacit dimension that's got the relevant knowledge, what happens next? They distract local people from paying attention to their daily practices that kept them alive for all those centuries. And they start introducing new things. So that knowledge that's in the tacit dimension begins the process of decay. It just it begins to die. And keeps on dying and keeps on dying until it is finished. When that knowledge is dying, the malaria parasite is feeling it. It can tell. It can tell what used to kill us is not here anymore. Okay? What used to kill us is not here anymore. And that's why the malaria parasite, suits up and of course goes on and becomes resistant to whatever intervention you're trying to put. And so you get a second resistance, second new type of parasite is even much stronger, much more resistance. How does it know this? The parasite itself knows this thing by what's called genetic recomposition. Actually recognize this is the genetic information. We're talking about the information system. So the gene itself that is, that controls, that governs the parasite itself, the gene will now get information from outside that nobody is looking at us. What they used to do with us by binding parasites is not there anymore. So when they were burning those leaves to chase away to immobilize the insects, the insect carrying the parasite, they were not killing the parasite itself. They were immobilizing the vector, which is the insect. So the parasite was never involved in the whole process. It's that the vector is the one that was getting immobilized. But now the vector is alive and well. Yeah, so the insect is alive and well. So the insect gets even more potent, more time to spread the very parasite that these guys are trying to kill. So focusing on the parasite and not even the transport system, which is the vector, the insect that carries it, is what? It means that the insect is going to continue transporting the parasite the same way. It's just even more times, gets even much more time because it's been left alone. Because the tacit knowledge that people used to have to stop the parasite from doing its job, the vector from doing its job, is gone. As people are distracted to go and take tablets. Yes. And so that is how you produce what? Multi-drug resistance. And that's what they have done to create multi-drug resistance from the global health by bringing intervention from outside. That's why I'm saying, whether somebody has got so much theoretical knowledge sitting in Boston, that knowledge does not enter the tacit dimension in the local community, because only the local people know what is going on in the local situation. So now said, when you get, and if only that knowledge that's happening in local situation is what is relevant for stopping the progression of that parasite or disease. Okay, so if knowledge is coming from outside, that knowledge is not relevant, and the parasite will know, and then whatever intervention you do cannot work and doesn't work, it just destroys everything. And I want to tell you that when you see viruses like Ebola virus, COVID, malaria, HIV, traveling everywhere in the world, is because of the way we are doing global health today. The whole thing misses the point completely, because the point is that the local people have got knowledge about how to solve their local problems. The problems will not come from New York. The solution will not come from New York, Washington, D.C., from Boston. They are not going to come from Geneva, Switzerland, or even London. But the solution is going to come from local people. That we are talking about decentralized solution. So the first step in doing this, solving this problem, is decentralize the financing, decentralize funding. Because when you have decentralized funding, like what you have been talking about with quadratic funding, or even retroactive public good funding, you give local people opportunity to fund things that matter to them. Those things that matter to them are in the tacit dimension. They actually know. They are not talking about them. But now, with the Actuate token and also the blockchain, we're going to create a conversation, a space where people now can talk about how they solve their local problem, so they can share with one another. So the knowledge becomes shared widely, so it becomes explicit. That's it. You've also been following you've been following our biomedical translation class. Is about creating, sharing knowledge so that we can make it explicit. So the first thing to do is that, use that ability of the actual token to gain access to the people so that you can get that knowledge that is in tacit dimension. Tacit means that people know, but they don't talk about them. And for you to understand tacit dimension, I would like you to read Michael Polanyi, 1936. Michael Polanyi said, "We can know more than we can tell." We can know more than human beings know more than we can tell. There are things you know, but then you cannot tell anybody how you know them. You cannot even tell them that you know them. You just do them. You just know them. Those things like what I was talking about, throwing leaves of certain plants to just have a good feeling, and eventually it turns out that is what's preventing malaria. Is that people know they are preventing malaria without knowing they are preventing malaria. By burning certain leaves, or even feeding those leaves to their livestock. They know they are preventing mineral, intestinal parasites. But without knowing it, all they do is feed those leaves to their animals. They think those leaves are good for their livestock. They actually know somewhere. It's there in their intuition. Listen to this word, intuition. It has got two things in it. There's intuition. Tuition means what? Teaching. Tuition. Inside. So intuition is the teaching that is going on inside yourself. Intuition is tacit. So when people know things by intuition, and that is what makes them survive, they cannot tell that. When people say intuitively, people say, "How did you know that?" Maybe they just shrug their shoulder. But nobody, all these hard-nosed academicians from the West, they don't want to respect that intuitive knowledge among local people. But now we have the technology to get all the way down to the intuitive knowledge. What people know by intuition, that knowledge that is in the intuition sense, it is in the tacit dimension. And that knowledge is what is giving us access to. So Actuate token gives us access to that space. In that space, that knowledge that is in that space, it is abundant like air. It's all the knowledge in the world. It's in it, and the knowledge is local with the local people. But it was not accessible because there was no way of communication before. Communicating that deep knowledge that is the intuition, or even getting incentivized to communicate that knowledge. So Now that we have the information system, remember what I told you, it's all information. Knowledge is information. We have the information system that's even automatic. It's on the cell phone, your handheld device. Now gains access to the knowledge and the intuition of mankind, every human being. Now we are told that every human being in Kenya, at least every family, has got access to a cell phone. As long as you put actual tokens on those cell phones, then we have direct access to the tacit dimension of everyone in the community. Things that people know, but they cannot tell. Things that people know, according to Michael Polanyi, you can know more than you can tell. In fact, to be more precise, to say you know more than you can tell. You know a lot more than you can tell. And the things that you know that you cannot tell are those things that are in the tacit dimension. See, why do I know this? I can't explain it. You know it by your gut feeling. Some people call it gut feeling. Gut feeling. Gut feeling. Does the gut have a brain? The brain itself has got the brain in the gut, which some people call the subconscious mind. So that subconscious mind is the gut feeling by intuition. Now we are able to automate that knowledge and put it where? Online, so that it becomes explicit. So it means that for us to convert that knowledge in the tacit dimension, okay, in the local communities, so that we can know why people do the things they do, that helps to answer the question why, or how people go on creating their meanings of everyday life. When the people are communicating with one another, that knowledge becomes explicit. And so we just have to create an incentivized process for enabling people to communicate with one another about this critical knowledge. When you look at it, say, from Harvard Medical School, or say Harvard School of Public Health, looks like very high profile knowledge. Turns out it's something that people do every day in a village. Okay. So, but then if you're in Harvard, you cannot see what's going on in the village because you're too far away. You're in the clouds, in the stratosphere. But then when you're on the ground in the village, then you know what's going on there, and you can share with your neighbors, with your friends, with the members of your family. But if you're incentivized to now bring it on top, so it can come up into the entire, the global platform, it can only happen that through a system like the blockchain itself. So what I'm saying is that when you incentivize people to communicate with one another in the villages, like we get community health workers receiving actual token for teaching people, for actually community health workers. If somebody's trained in the local community, you recruit someone in the community. That's what we're going to do, recruit people in the communities to tell us about what's going on in the community, about the health of the people, how people are overcoming their everyday problems. I say everyday problems, or they are solving problems in their everyday life. Instead of assuming that the answer to the problems that are happening to people is going to come from Boston, we say, tell us how you have been solving this problem in your local community. That's the job of the community health work. In other we call the community economic development workers. So these are the people who are local in the community, who are working with people. They are reaching the families, talking to family members, talking to mothers about health problems within the community, or even talking about nutrition, food, and everything. And there has never been a system that is able to reach people all the way down that level, because the centralized system, instead of the community health workers or even people gathering data from the community, they're actually given that data from the top to go and implement in the village. It's top down, so it's not called top down. And that is how top down basis the knowledge that is in the tacit dimension. So what you're talking about, the blockchain itself becomes bottoms up, where the knowledge is coming from the ground and then working its way upwards towards the blockchain. You see how it was so difficult is that working the knowledge up from the village to the World Health Organization That is too many steps, and by the time it gets to the World Health Organization, it's already sanitized. It's been cleaned up from whatever was being said in the village. But now we are talking about somebody in the village sharing the knowledge directly with the blockchain through the Actuate token, through its own wallet. As we have said before, that the wallet itself is what? Is the gateway to Wonderland. So that when somebody is in the village has got direct access to the top, that's direct access. And that's what we're talking about, equity. So when Mr. David, King David, now we call you King David, was talking, he talks about equity, equitable distribution. So we're having equitable distribution of two types of equity. First of all, is equitable distribution of the sources of funding. Who can contribute money to solve these problems of global health concern? Who can participate? That's the first level of equity. Equity in contribution. We don't have to wait for Bill Gates to come from Washington State, University of Washington, so they can come to Naivasha. No. We get everybody, including all the people in the village, participating, say the buying tokens, creating liquidity pools, and then they are part of the system, even participating in the retroactive public good funding. Okay, these are the people at the very bottom. So the idea is not coming from the top; it's coming from where? From the ground. And with coming from the ground, it's relevant, and the solutions are going to have fit and they work. So the second equity is that once people have contributed the money, they have equal chances of making decisions about how that money is going to be used through a blockchain-based voting system. Because only blockchain allows people to vote in a democratic process, and they can vote throughout the world. See, that's the second thing. So equity, and then if the system is transparent, now you can say that the transparency is the opposite of what the present day global health system is. It's the thing is highly opaque, and you can't know what, because it is just created to serve the interest of just a few people. As I said, either they come from Europe or they come from the United States. So the whole thing, for everybody else, nobody knows what is happening. You're just told, okay, today we are going to this village, we are going to distribute mosquito nets and blah, blah, blah. Today we are going to distribute vaccines and all that. So number 3, equity for the use of knowledge. So once knowledge, first of all, we need to preserve that knowledge that is the tacit dimension. We use it and respect it. So this arrogance or infantilization of local knowledge is disenchanting. It's insufferable. So Europeans have that thing. They want to infantilize what you say and what you think. They say, oh, he doesn't know what you're talking about. He's a child, just a 5-year-old. We are not 5-year-olds, so we don't want any more of that infantilization, which is good. But they do this on purpose, because if they don't do that, they're going to lose what they call power. That's what they think power is. So it's not about infantilizing other people's knowledge or diminishing them, thinking that these people are not smart enough to think for themselves. Now this is about allowing the knowledge from local people to shine. That comes down to the second level of knowledge, which becomes now the sophisticated knowledge that we need to use to manufacture products. And that's why we want to do translation science. So we can translate our knowledge into commercial products and services on the ground. And we have so many people, so many universities there in Kenya and in the entire African continent. People know, they have ideas about how they can create or manufacture products that will improve their lives. But they cannot do that in the present day centralized finance system. Because to manufacture, it means that you need to raise money. How can you raise money when the people who control the centralized finance system do not want you to raise money? So that we don't have any capital markets. The capital markets that you would have in place like Nairobi Stock Exchange is a pseudo market. It's not the true capital markets representing the capital of the people in the nation. And that applies to all the capital markets in Africa. As I've told you before, say that in Nairobi Stock Exchange, most of the companies listed there are European owned. It was about 85% of them. I don't know how many they are today, including companies like Safaricom, companies like Kenya Breweries. They're all European. Yeah, just in case you didn't know. Yes, and they do not want you to list your own company there. So they make it extremely difficult for you to get listed, to gain access to form capital. So capital formation becomes impossible. So we are talking about decentralized capital formation system on the DeFi, decentralized finance network, that people are able to raise funds without having to ask for permission from the European read and what capital markets. You cannot raise money from the capital markets to fund your own ideas. Even you have the brightest idea. In fact, what they will do, they make you present your idea to them, then they're going to take it and they're going to develop it on their own. They will never talk to you again. But when they tell you to present, they are telling you that they're going to give you a grant. Remember, they are stealing your knowledge. When you show your ideas to them, showing, they have seen, I can tell you, we have grants for people with innovations. Then they come, they are shopping. And because people are going to think that they're going to get grants, maybe they'll give one grant to maybe 100 presentations or even 1,000. What do they do with the rest of them? That's 99 or maybe 999. They are going to take them and create their own companies. They'll say, well, nice idea. Yeah, they develop it. But that was happening because we do not have any means of capital formation. We can't form capital. And it's done that is done by purpose in the centralized finance system. So decentralized finance gives us now the ability to form capital, to translate our knowledge into commercial products, goods, and services. The knowledge that is local, we're not going to be translating knowledge from Boston. If you're in KU, you're going to be translating knowledge that you've gathered through KU. Or if you're in Egerton, or if you say Maseno, Molino, same thing. You're going to be translating knowledge gathered there and composed there. It's ideas that you found along the way, even from your village. And then that is about equity in knowledge, in fact, equity in capital formation, because that problem of capital formation is the main problem we have in, say, University of Cape, even creating jobs. Then from there, people can create jobs and create products that are going to improve human life in their own communities. And that is only possible through a decentralized finance. So Actuate, now when you have Actuates, and we are going to encourage as many people as possible to go to the market, buy those Actuates, create liquidity pools, because that's another thing that when you, if you have 1 million people, each one creating a liquidity pool, even if it's for $1, then you have $1 million liquidity. See that? And that is enough money to do a lot of good work. So the more the merrier. So you want for this thing to work. Now, King David, we talked about Goliath. Now, Goliath needed only one stone to knock him down. It's a single person. So what you're saying here, all of you, take the position of King David. Take King David's perspective. Before he was a king, he was just a young man out there. And then you have a single stone in a catapult. So the catapult is the liquidity pool. And you have one token. The token say $1 token. Create a liquidity pool, even if it's $1. But invite all your friends to do that. We cannot get over this Goliath of global health problem. We cannot get this global health Goliath if we don't take action. And then remember what King David was, I think he was sitting next to his king. Was it called Saul? I told him, listen, I can knock this man. Saul told him, listen, you, you young man, shut up. This man is so strong. It's going to knock you down on your own. Hmm? And he said, yeah, let me do it. Yes. And what did David do? He said, he just did it. You know, like Lillian, are you here? He said, just do it. Just do it. What I'm telling you to just do is get those Actuate token and create a liquidity pool. Just do it. Don't think that your $1 liquidity pool is not going to knock down global health meta crisis, called meta crisis, the global health problem we have today. It is your dollar, just like the one small stone by Mr. David that brought down the entire Goliath. That was before he became the king. So that $1, and even of course you can do $1 is just a word here, but you can do liquid pools that are worth $1,000 if you have that, or even 20,000. But $1 liquid pool for every single person. So we get $1 liquid pools from 1 million people. Then we have what? We have knocked down Goliath. It's as simple as that. To you, when you're spending $1, it doesn't seem very expensive. But to the virus itself, if 1 million people contribute $1, now the virus will take notice and say, oh yeah, tumesikia. And even that malaria parasite. So it is not that we have to wait for the Europeans to give us. The Europeans do not give us any money. They actually do, as you're thinking they are giving us the money, they are stealing all your ideas, by the way, the things that you're thinking about in translation science. So that is the geopolitical issue, which is called global health. And so that's equity in manufacturing. And so what I want to tell you is that you have, right now, you have the power to knock down the Goliath yourself without having to go to anybody else. So what I've told you today is summary, in long talk, that global health is not working because of what? Fixes that fail, system archetype. Fixes that fail produce something called shifting the burden, where the burden of solution is shifted to the people in Boston and Europe. Because we don't want to think about how to create solution for malaria, we now shift the burden to them. So they think it is their work to solve the global health problem, okay, or to reduce the burden of disease that is among Africans. So that's called shifting the burden. Shifting the burden and fixes that fail. First of all, produces the shifting the burden archetype, which is a side effect or unwanted consequence. But shifting the burden creates even much greater unwanted consequence, which is known as the atrophy of knowledge. Knowledge dies. That what people know, what people used to know how to solve their own problem dies. When the knowledge about how to solve your problem dies, what happens? The disease multiplies. That is called the relevance paradox. Okay. So you have learned new terms. Relevance paradox is the result of shifting the burden. And you can get all that from, I didn't write it, I didn't invent it, so it was there, from actually MIT Systems Lab here in Boston. This Systems Lab was created way back in 1956. And they studied systems, and that is in Systems Dynamics Lab at MIT. So I was surprised to see that in Boston. And then I say, why do they have this? They know it, but they're killing us in Africa with all this stuff. So these system archetypes, you can read them from the Fifth Discipline, Peter Senge, the art and practice of the learning organization. And then eventually, we have a solution to all that. You have a solution. The solution is liquidity pools, decentralized finance. Go create a liquidity pool. Do not allow this shifting the burden to continue. The fixes that fail. We take back our own knowledge, because it's the knowledge itself that's in the local community that has been killed. It has died. But you can resurrect that knowledge. Okay? If you're $1 into the liquidity pools and everybody gets on liquidity pool, then you feel very, very good and very empowered. And as we are talking, this is going to be great conversation, important conversation we want to have at the summit in December. How we resurrect this knowledge, because resurrection is possible. The knowledge once it dies, it can be brought back because people are very regenerative. Knowledge can also be regenerated like that. And now we have the technology for regenerating that knowledge. Okay. And that knowledge is called decentralized finance. It's on the blockchain. It's the actual token itself. And that's why I would say, again, get as many Actuate sites as possible. Create liquidity pools. And then when you create these liquidity pools, they're not for you to speculate and also just, the whole thing is people misunderstand is that if you want to, liquidity pools requires you to be patient. So don't create liquidity pools and then want to undo the liquidity pool the next day. It's not helpful. But if we want to take control and get back our knowledge, I'm telling you the knowledge is getting stolen every day. Besides getting killed, if you want to take back our knowledge, you want to create the liquidity pools. All right, thank you so much, and I hope I didn't. Okay, but read those books. Talk about system. I think we will post some information about system dynamics here, so you understand how it works. It's very, very important, very exciting science if you understand it. Another science, systems science, systems dynamics. It's taught in organization science. Okay, it's organization, how people organize in societies. And we're going to be talking a lot of that about how we get organized for our own survival, so we don't get knocked out by people always trying to knock out us every single day. Okay, thank you. Back to you. Back to you, Glory.
Wow, thank you, Daktari, for that for those insightful remarks. It is the cup of knowledge everyone would want to take every morning. So yeah, you have heard that we are the solution to our own problems. Personally, I am disappointed that the multi-drug resistance, the antimicrobial disease resistance, that a common problem that we have even here in Kenya is like engineered. It's somehow intentional. It's like we are the guinea pigs. So I think I believe that now we are the ones to bring change, to solve our problems, to use the knowledge we have, and to solve our local problems, because it is us who understand the problems that we face. We don't expect other people what we call the globe. We don't expect them to understand us and to come to help us to solve the problems. So, and all this is possible with the relevant knowledge, and that's why you should not miss any session, because our very own CEO, Dr. Masharia, is full of knowledge, as you have heard. It is something you would not wish to miss. And we have also understood how we can raise funds. We don't have to get grants from other continents. The grants are within ourselves. So we have our Actuate token. I encourage all of us to keep attending to receive more tokens, and also to invite our colleagues, and also to campaign for this, and also to invite more people to invest in Actuate so that they can get more tokens. And this is how now we will raise funds for the biomedical knowledge translations, all the projects now. And we will set ourselves free. We will be free. Yes. So let's not miss the sessions. Let's be pushed by, let's be self-driven by desire to bring change. Yes. So once again, thank you, Daktari. Thank you to our topic master. Thank you to our topic master, David. It was really a powerful presentation. So I think unless there's any other concern, we are getting close to the end of the meeting. So the attendance form has been shared at the chat box. It is, you fill so that you receive the tokens. Yes. So unless there's any other concern, maybe once you fill the attendance form, you are free to leave. Once again, thank you all for joining.
All right, thank you, Glory, and thank you everybody for joining. And I cannot emphasize more the importance for you buying a lot more tokens and creating liquid pools, because I can tell you we are not extracting ourselves from that stranglehold by the Europeans unless unless we do it. And that multi-drug resistance, yes, it is created. It is created through that system archetype known as fixes that fail. And you guys, I think I'll post for you. You can Google it, fixes that fail system archetype. Also Google and find the fifth discipline, the art and practice of the learning organization. And also Google the shifting the burden system archetype. I wrote these things in my book. Also, you can purchase my book. It's called Emergency. Emergency is about getting the local knowledge to emerge doing exactly what we are doing. When I published that book, that was back in 2008, there was no blockchain. I didn't even know we were ever going to have a technology, but then the technology came along, so that let us use it effectively. So, and of course, get a copy of my book as well. You want to be thoroughly enlightened about these matters. But the most important thing is you buy a whole boatload of Actuate tokens. Okay, a boatload. That means a boat, but many people don't understand how the size of the boat. Let's talk about a lorry load, a truckload, one big truckload of Actuate tokens. That means you want to have Actuate tokens in your wallet in large numbers. Number two, don't let those Actuate tokens sit there in the wallet. Use them to create liquidity pools. By the way, when you create liquidity pools, the Actuate tokens do not leave your wallet. They're still inside your wallet. But they are also, remember, the wallet is a gateway. So they're still with you. You have not given them to anybody else. Okay, so they're still yours. You have not given them out there. So buy a lot of them, create liquidity pools. And it's by doing that we are going to gain back, we are going to gain power over global health, over those multi-drug resistant parasites. Remember, and I want to tell you again, parasites do not become resistant to drugs. Okay? Parasites are already made that way because they have to fight for their survival. They have to survive. Parasites don't want to die, and then they would say that's the end of this parasite. They want to continue living. That's how nature was created. That there has to be a balance of nature. When those parasites were there in nature, they were not killing millions of people. No, they were just coexisting. So that coexistence got distracted when the coexistence gets distracted when people try to come and bring their own heroic interventions from outside. And so they create an imbalance or a disturbance or disharmony in nature balance. So the balance itself, that is nature, gets disrupted, and then you start having fixes that fail. It just fails because of trying to disturb the system. Yeah. And so that we can now stop that by getting local people, the knowledge from the local people, which is called the tacit knowledge, to emerge from the top and gain access to it. And then, of course, the ultimate thing that you will do by creating those liquid pools is helping to form capital for translation science. Today, we cannot form capital because you try to do that to see how hard they are going to try to form capital that will raise money to build a company. How hard you're going to be punished. Yeah, because they have regulations against anyone to try to form capital. It's just real crazy. So that they do that so that when they make it so difficult for you to raise capital, you have to go for a grant from a grant making organization in Europe. That means you have to submit all your knowledge to them, all of it. And remember, that knowledge you have has come from your own consciousness. It's like selling your own, it's like giving not just your shamba, because your knowledge. Remember what you're submitting there, which is coming out of your consciousness. It is your entire wealth. The wealth comes from your own imagination, what you can think of, what you can conceive. And then when you conceive it, that thing has much more value than hundreds of acres of land. Okay? It has got much, much greater value. Because even if somebody was going to give you 100 acres of land, you still have to use your imagination to make money out of that 100 acres. Even if it is 1 acre, you still have to apply your imagination. Now imagine taking that imagination, your own imagination, and then giving it to someone. That imagination is worth 1 million acres. And then because you have given it away, those 1 million acres, somebody is going to use that million acres. That is how we exploit it today. So what's called neo-colonialism is exactly that. Colonizing your consciousness. Colonizing our consciousness, that now I can now give my knowledge for free to them. And then in promise that they're going to give me, say, $1,000 grant. And so we get a whole 100 people more contributing all their knowledge. These guys are going to be, they are very clever. They have an army of people on the other side who are going to review all those documents, and they are looking and saying, wow, this is the greatest one. We have already given them the solution. So they implement it. They won't even respond to you. They just tell you, unfortunately, your grant, your application was not considered, so try again next time. But you've already given it to them. It's not, it was not considered. They said, fortunately, your idea is so great that we shall take it, but you're not going to give you any money. Can you believe that? It's really crazy. But you see, the way they have put our academic system, our education system, the university is the one that is teaching the young people, the rising generation, to do that. Instead of teaching the rising generation, stop this hemorrhaging of our knowledge. Yeah, but then we don't even need to do that now because we have decentralized finance. All we have to do is understand that we are still hemorrhaging. We are bleeding our resources out of our system. Yeah, and that doesn't help us. So that poverty can remain poverty. People can stay poor the way we were, the way they want us to be, and they are going to be calling us a third world forever and ever. Yeah, according to them. But you say, no, stop that nonsense, that infantilization. Forget it. Let's go to where our tacit knowledge is our own, and we respect it, we developed it our own way. You see, when Japanese people figure that out, Japanese people got it. They used to be Saturn the same way we are Saturn today. Even the South Koreans. Yeah, even the guys from Singapore. walikuwa wamekaliwa, wakatulia tuli. But when they figure out this, they say, okay, let us all stop this nonsense. Okay. And then we create our system. When Japanese people, particularly in this capital formation system, they figured it out that they can form capital by getting people together in Japan. In fact, in that time, they didn't even have DeFi, they didn't have decentralized finance, and they did it. If they could do it in Japan, in a system that was called Kairetsu. So in the Kairetsu system, Kairetsu sounds like a Kenyan Kairetsu, like a little girl. So what the Kairetsu was is getting people in every village to contribute the little money they keep in the house into a common pool. Let us call it what you call shama in Kenya. Kila mtu. But then they formalized that system. They formalized the chama system. But then, because local people are contributing the money, they get registered, everybody gets credit and get shares for their contribution. In fact, because people are saying we don't have money to participate in large projects, they don't have large projects. They say that if you contribute, just like the way people contribute money in Harambes, local Harambes, that money gets registered and then they get shares, and those shares are listed in the stock market. So what Japan did, or the Japanese people did, was to fight that European hegemony for telling them you cannot list small contributors in the market. So these shares were issued in the marketplace, so they get a second life. So it's totally decentralized finance. In fact, that was DeFi for Japan in the centralized finance system way back in 1970s. And when they do that, now the local contributors, every village that was contributing was given opportunity, because every community was having a local college or university, and then they would develop a certain part of the Toyota vehicles. So some people, say for example, if you have all these technical universities, you would have, say, people at Masida Muliro developing the steering wheel, people in Nyeri, Dedan Kimathi developing the brakes, people in Mombasa Polytechnic or Technical University of Mombasa developing the powertrain. You see, because they are all contributors in the same company. So it's not one. So Japanese Toyota is made in every village in Japan. That's what they say. It's decentralized manufacturing. And so every particular community became excellent in creating one particular thing. And so they were now leading their children to learn about that particular thing that's developed in their own community. So that's why Japanese cars are not made in one town. They are made all over Japan. But these are the parts. So all these people are supplying parts to now the central manufacturing plants in Tokyo, Japan. So that central manufacturing plant now was collecting this from because every village was participating. Talk about decentralized manufacturing. That is insane. Well, it's not insane. It's something we are going to do even ourselves. And because of that, Japan created about 5 kairetsus for engineering only. So motor vehicle engineering, then electronic engineering. You know, companies like Toshiba came around. And then we had other motor vehicles like Isuzu. We had, yeah, all these companies that you make the big cars that you find in Kenya from the big. And so for Toyota itself, most successful, see, there's a Toyota for everyone. From the tiniest Toyota called Toyota Vitz to the most sophisticated Toyota sedan, and even more advanced Toyota SUVs, sports utility vehicles, and even Toyota tractors. That is Japan decentralization. And they didn't ask for advice from anyone. They actually shut down any news coming from Europe. They didn't want to hear. Yeah. And so if you look at the life tables in Japan, Japan has the longest life expectancy in this world. When at the beginning, I say like the middle of the century, last century, life expectancy was about 48 years. Then other countries like South Korea follow suit. You know, today, the South Korea is leading in electronics, and has having created a lot of engineering. Even companies like Samsung, which we rely upon for our communication. And now I was talking to Amodi Giga, who's coming to talk about nuclear power for Kenya. South Korea is doing nuclear energy. South Korea was even admitted in the G7, the group of 7 most industrialized nations. But South Korea in 1973 had lesser GDP than Kenya. So it was poorer than Kenya. In fact, South Korea had come to Kenya to borrow some money from President Kenyatta. And they went also to, and so is Singapore. So in order for these things to happen, we have to focus on the local knowledge, turn inwards inside ourselves, what we call intuition. Let our inside selves teach us. Use our own intuition, and we exploit our own tacit knowledge instead of giving it away out there. Yeah, I don't even know if we could call it giving it away. It's being bled out of us. Okay, so we don't talk the same thing over again. I hope you have understood that and how serious it is. The seriousness of the issue is just beyond belief. You better. And of course, all the stuff you're seeing with the finance bill will disappear when we understand that. So we won't have that the IMF writing our own budget to come and give Mr. Ruto to come and lead for us in the parliament and force the parliament to accept it. Because IMF will not even have anything to say when we do these things. Okay? Yeah, so that's the situation. And I think that you have had get lots of Actuate tokens. And I think the solution is at hand. And the solution is in your hands. All right. All right, people. Have a good one now. And I think we can adjourn till next week. So, Glory, what are we going to be talking about next week?
Next week is our 8th session, so we will wrap up.
Okay, so things are moving so fast. Yeah. So get everybody all the people who don't have liquid pools, create liquid pools so that we, you know that this is what it's all about. Okay.
Yeah, so once you accumulate your tokens and you want to make liquidity pools, want to create liquidity pools, you can DM me anytime, any day. I help you in case you need help. So see you in our next session, same time, same day, Thursday from 8 to 9. And thank you for joining, and make sure you spread the word. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.